Thank you, Andrea Marioni, for accepting the invitation to join the artist talk at the Dynamo. Thank you so much for the support, technical support we have tonight. What's amazing, first time we didn't run out of time with the streaming installation. And thank you for joining. I'd like to introduce Andrea Marioni. For those who don't know him, he's a performer artist, and he was raised in Ticino, and he attended the UNIL University in Lausanne, where he studied art history and aesthetics of cinema. He also graduated from the Geneva University of Art and Design, head with the Bachelor in Visual Arts. And then he went to specialize in performance. I think he was student of Jan Duvendak, or not really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And where he obtained the Master in Contemporary Art Practices, so-called Work.Master. This is his statement. The statement he say in his work, he used concepts mainly inspired by immaterial acts, oral culture, anthropology, psychiatry, and his interest in sculpting behaves and emotional time lapses, contrast between the individual and the social body, involving research and documentation, fiction and speculation, with the aim to provoke a distance of his subject and open interpretations. He was member of Origin Paradise, it's an art space in Lausanne, and he currently lives in Biel, Bienne, where he's director of the space, espace libre, Visarte. And keep your questions, and then after your presentation, I come back to you and we have a conversation. Thank you and enjoying the evening.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for you to be here. So before to start, when I received the invitation to present my work, it was a good occasion to actually look at my work, because it wasn't really clear for me. So it's I also noticed that it have been this year 10 years since I started the art school, so it's kind of a birthday or like a decade. And somehow it's marked by 10 years, which is I'm just wonder what will be the next 10 years, and somehow it's maybe also a way to close a chapter. I don't know really yet, but looking on everything I've done to prepare a bit this presentation, I'm also feeling that somehow I'm going in other kind of research, so it's good I can present now this parcours. I don't know how to say in English this parcours. You say it in English perfect. So my English is not perfect, so I will excuse already now. I'm really open for the talk, but I'm a person that maybe get really lost in the thinking. So if you are not offensive, I propose I'm speaking first part, and then we open for the question, so I won't get lost. So it's thank you. And so I have different stuff. I don't know if I will be able to speak about everything. I have many topics I'm interested in, and so this is a kind of plan or map I've done for what I think it's kind of important for me, or like some chapter in my work. It's not complete. I already add some stuff in my book. But you have most of the keywords that I have in front of me. First, and I think I also want to like just watch these keywords and then get in something organic. I don't know if it's really linked with my art practice, but let's say it's a way I like also to um, go and to research. So maybe it's part also of my work somehow. First of all, I would like to start with my mother because often when there is some artists, they say I start to draw when I was 8, and it's kind of a joke. People laugh, and it was a question to for me to know how this it's funny somehow. It's also some people they said I'm drawing since I'm 8. It's kind of honest. It doesn't. It's not really a statement, but it's considered as funny or naive or not really important or relevant. I don't really remember if I was drawing at 8, maybe in the school as everybody, but for me, maybe it's about my mother, and it's. I hope it will make sense also in the following points. But I think she's not an artist. She's not this kind of person that push the kids to do whatever. So she didn't really push me to make the art because she wanted me to be an artist. It was like a kind of a mistake because actually she's not understanding really what I'm doing most of the time. So this is the situation. But somehow she's a mother of 3 children. I'm the last one, so I think she had also more time with me to also going to the museum and to be curious. So I think it was something that I was interesting too. So I was reactive on going to the museum or theater or whatever. So she could bring me on these kind of activities that she had to um, let go maybe for the education of my brother and my sister that they're older. And the point is that I still have in this memory of especially a travel in Paris where we went to Musée d'Orsay, Louvre, and the Classic Museum, and we were kind of lost because she's not an expert, as I said. I was a kid, and she want me to make understand. So we were having this audio guide that they were looking like old cell phone in the 90s. You know, they were like really big and explain you some stuff of the artist. But somehow I think I create a kind of relation with the art in that moment because I don't know if it's because you are a kid or whatever, but somehow it was not matter to understand this academic way of art. It was more like I don't know, Disneyland. I mean, I really remember Quai d'Orsay as a Disneyland somehow. So it was really exciting to go all this room and these paintings, and they're really strong and out of the historical manners. It's something that I really remember, and I put on the map nearby Rancière because it's remembering me about this maître ignorant. In English is the ignorant master. So my mother was my ignorant master of art, and I think it's important because of course then I study, I get more academic. I've been in the art university, historical, then in the art school, but somehow when you have to have always this distance, which I wrote not so far away. I also have this first lesson of art which is not involving knowledge, it's more involving some kind of emotional or some kind of other relation with art, and I try to remember it, and somehow it's important for me to also think my work, because I really like theory. I have nothing against theory. I prefer to read the theory than novels or fiction, and I think I still have this kind of relationship with the theory, because I read the theory as a novel. So most of the time I don't know if I understood the book, but I like it, and it make me also imagine stuff, story, movie, art piece, whatever. So for me, my relationship with theory is not as a theoretician, but it's more adventurous, I will say, and maybe it's about that I'm not feeling ashamed to not understand or to not knowing well the theory, even if I know, I mean, if we speak about some books I've read, I know what is in the book, but it's get somewhere else, and yeah, I like it. Um, so yeah, that was my start. It was maybe the only thing I really prepared. So now let's see on the keywords, or maybe you can choose the next keywords, and then I will embody. Um, yeah, hard one. Yeah. So embody, I write it down because um, yeah, I can get a lot of points, but here to stay maybe straight on the plan, it's nearby uniform, and with my practice, I like to kind of consider the costume of my performance as uniform, as a costume, because maybe I to invent a new name for that, but the clothes I have, and most of the time I try to do the clothes myself, um, are for me a way to embody the performance, and it's mean also that somehow the performance doesn't require me, Andrea. It requires someone that activate the work, and the clothes are inviting to activate this kind of behavior, this kind of stuff. So um, yeah, maybe we will get more deep in this kind of stuff of this point of performance, that maybe we are common, that the performer is himself, or I just get up with this fast quote with Abramovich saying the artist is present, and most of you probably knows a bit about this work, that she's just sitting and watching the people and being the artist, or being Marina Abramovich. I will say, me personally, I like to say the artist is not present. So somehow, it's I don't think that me is the most important part of my work somehow. I really like to think that my work is important by itself, and I somehow, I mean, it's like if I build a car, but I can drive it to see if it's work, but then I don't have to drive all the time is a car. So uh, someone that know or want to know how to drive a car can drive the car. So yeah, so maybe is this about the embodiment, or we can go maybe to another word someone else is maybe want to point. Chaos. Yeah, this is helped me. So um, I put chaos because maybe it's about aesthetic or how is this presentation. But to get straight on the science, I don't know exactly now what the science says, but at some point in the book of Stephen Hawkins, he was written. Um, we don't know if the universe is a chaos that is going to be ordered, or is something ordered that will be a chaos. And I think this is kind of the same motto I have for my work. I never know it's a chaos that will be ordered, or is it something ordered that will be a chaos. And I'm in between this move. Some work are ordered, and I want to blast them, and sometimes it's a blast that I try to understand. And on the aesthetic, it's look as a chaos, but when people they point that as a critic, I like to remember that maybe the universe is working in the same way, which is kind of excuse me, I think. Another keyword, performance. Yes, um, every word could have a discussion itself, so I will choose a point now. Um, of course, when I entered in this art school, I didn't know anything about performance. I didn't know all the history. I mean, I have been maybe confronted to some performance art without to know that was a specific field. And I went into it because um, after the first year, I was somehow understanding that I have to produce some object and then have to find a way to sell them, and that will be probably the rest of my life as an artist. And I was 21, and maybe I wanted to be more provocative with the life, and then I said I want to do something immaterial that doesn't enter in that logic. And then they say me, so you want to do the performance? Maybe. So I mean, I just enter in that because I want also to, yeah, kind of involve a sort of economy that it's based on immateriality, and how to kind of get in the market with that, because yeah, you can do anything, or painting, and then you have to find out how to sell it, but it's still an object. And for me, it was also kind of provocative to say I want to sell something that doesn't exist, or a behave, or a word, or one stuff. So I it's the moment I subscribe in the section of performance, which was called art action, which is also kind of glamour way to call it. I mean, there is this action stuff, and that was one reason. The other reason was also that at that time I was kind of still hoping will be able to make movies as a director, and I was telling myself what I will say to the actors if I never try to be an actor, if I never, you know. So I said, this is I'm in the art school, so let's going also for that reason, because I was personally really lost in the after the first year, after following the section sculpture, painting, performance, and video art or digital art, and I wanted to make all. I mean, I wanted to be moving while I'm in a movie, painted, and I don't know, jumping on blocks or whatever. So for me, everything was making sense, and it was kind of a playground. And but maybe this point of the performance, which is immaterial and it's open a lot of also economic questions, I think it was the most it was the winner argument to go in that direction. Other keyword, happiness. Yeah. Um, so I got in the happiness, but I want to jump also into Fellini. They are kind of connect, and I put Fellini for many reasons, but he have these nice quotes, which I like to say. That they ask him at some point in an interview why he's doing a movie, and he answered, "Is the only way I know how to be in this life." So somehow it's make him happy, and I'm 32 now. I will be 32 next month, and happiness is nearby work, as you can see. And yeah, there's this relation: your work make the happiness, or your happiness make your work. And there is a lot of occasion to show your work in Switzerland and to be also supported. But I mean, as I said at the beginning, I'm here after a decade of practice. I don't know if I will be here in the next 10 years. It's exciting because it's a bet with the everything, but in the same time it's not secure. And otherwise, after 10 years, when I'm sometimes asking myself what kind of work I can do, or what kind of company I could go to propose my service, I don't know. I mean, I really get I mean, I work a bit as a chef in the restaurants, but even if, I mean, it will be the only work because it's still creative, but it's also really physical asking. And I don't know if you can start to be a cook when you are 35 or 40. So yeah, happiness, it's is in general also a question I have when like moment like this. I have attention, so I have, as Andy Warhol would say, my quarter of glory or whatever. I had some newspaper article which my mother really like because it's the time she understand what I'm doing. And but yes, it's a question I'm asking regularly. Happiness, what is that make me happy? Real? Is not a trick. Is what's make me happy in my work is the attention I have of the people, or is the work itself, or is the preparation? Yeah, I jump directly to Documenta, which is near, because I've been in Documenta and I got some attention, but I wasn't really happy. I mean, I was 25, and now I said I was lucky to be somehow in the front of this TV performance, and people, even if it was a local TV, but the other student or artists, they were recognizing me, or you know, they were, I will say, this school glory or local glory, but it was kind of not really interesting. I mean, it was new, so um, it's a point when you continue, or like this evening when I got the invitation, it's, yeah, um, your friend or whatever, maybe they have this impression that you're getting attention and whatever, and so you should be just excited and you know, this woo, I am in the front of everything. um, yes, it's good, but it's a calm happiness somehow. I'm happy that I could watch on my work, and so it's why also I accept the invitation. But I'm also afraid about myself as a human being, that if I will continue to have attention, or even at some point have success, if I stay related with what is worth for me. And so I have this contrast relationship with happiness, because um, I try to take it little by little drops, I will say. And I'm speaking about art and work. Then there is the rest of the life, which is another matter of happiness. But yeah, um, another keyword, Matthew Barner. So I could be linked with my mother somehow. um, I mean, Matthew Barner. It's they show the cycle of Cremaster in the 2003, I guess, in Festival of Locarno, or it was 2002 anyway. And at that time, I wanted to be a film director, and I was watching all the movie in the festival, and then I happened to Matthew Barney Cremaster Cycle, which was really an experience and totally free for me. It was free from a lot of forms or movies. I mean, I was dreaming to be Spielberg, which it's really blockbuster, really formatted. And then you get on Cremaster, Matthew Barney, which you don't understand anything. And I just remember I was 16, and we passed hours and drinking our first beer till 5 o'clock in the morning, just to try to figure out what was that. What is that? What was it trying to say it, or what was all this universe? And it's a really rich universe. I mean, for me, I would say that I'm kind of jealous with Matthew Barney. I want to take a building and put colors on all the building, because you just have to walk as a horny or animal, and he did it. So it's really impressive. And then when I was in the university, for random reason, was this possibility to study Matthew Barn Cremaster cycle, to present it to the other student. So it was also my first work in art history, and I had to study it really precisely. So I understood after 5 years what was about the Cremaster cycle, which didn't really change my fascination for that. On the contrary, I was even more having inspiration, and I like this stuff that is taking things or whatever, making stuff with a sort of personal mythology, and it's linked with psychogeography somehow, that it's in the middle, just up to the performance. So yeah, I will resume that Matthew Barney was like a first ignorant relation with the art movie field, and the same time the first academic work. And yes, I don't want to bother you more with that. Keyword: war. Yeah, it's long story, and I try to make short. Um, war. On the generational scale, I think I'm part of this generation that I've been confronted with war all the life. I have been lucky that I have not been directly confronted with a war situation, but on the TV, I've grown up all my life with some war going on and being broadcast. So um, in on emotional scale, I think there is some relation with that and all specific words have been, and I can remember personal stuff and date them because I know it was during Rwanda genocide, for example, you know. So um, it's really a contrast relation because I will love, I mean, in the ideal world, I would like to not have this memory going on. Then I can, I mean, I try to make it short. I can also say that as a kid, you receive war toys, you playing the war, and then you you also dream a bit of the war because you don't understand anything. You have the movie, you have the toys, and it's look really exciting. And I have one of my first work I will show you later that try to deconstruct a bit this kind of toy, maybe male relationship with war. Um, I would like also to quote um, one person that is not what I have here. It's George Orwell, which I discovered recently, but they have this clever, I think, this clever uh, observation about war between the First War and the First World War and the Second World War about the English generation that is just in between. So, like him, he was too young to go in France in the First World War, and he was starting to be too old to be in the second. And he was saying that somehow his generation was kind of jealous because they were only 15 and they could go, but they are not this really man or strong generation because it was just before, so they kind of miss it, you know. And there is all this glorification of the guy going back home. They have seen the war and etc. So I mean, you make it very precise. Now I'm really not quoting precisely, but his thought is about saying that the generation that haven't been in the war, it's like having this fascination for the generation that have been in the war, and that's his fascination that can go for the worst, which then happened the Second World War somehow. Um, and I can see some parallel, let's say. I mean, the emotion or the feeling, I think it's timeless. Then George Orwell speak about a specific situation, but I think this feeling it's like timeless because I remember as a kid, um, somehow we were dreaming about the Second World War. We had some grandfather. I mean, I'm French. Others, I mean, in Switzerland, even if we haven't been in the Second World War, most of the kids of my age they have grandparents from another country with some stories about that. So I remember we were saying, what happened if the Nazi are coming? I will be, of course, in the rebel army. I won't never be a Nazi. And yeah, 15 years later, if you look at the European renew of the radical right, yeah, it's just a question I have. You know, it's what happened when we were kid. We were dreaming to fight the Nazi, and now I'm almost afraid to wake up. And the Nazi are still here. I mean, I'm a Swiss Italian, and I have really a look on the Italy, and yes. So to get in something maybe more happy, but the war. I think my way to. I mean, it's like an ongoing subject. I'm trying to figure out all this stuff I've said every 5 years and say, well, okay, what's about that? What's about this? What's going on? Which kind of forgeries now? How they work, and etc. And I like to make a joke of that, or there is a really nice Monty Python sketch that it's about the perfect joke that kill you of laughing, and so the English they decide to translate it in German, to go in the Germany to say the joke in German because they don't understand in English. The English don't understand the German, so they are just like in the battlefield with saying the joke in German, and all the German they fall down like is the atomic bomb, you know. So, and Monty Pythons they have few sketch about war, so I think it's a heavy topic, but somehow I like to think it can be treated with something more light, with some, I don't know how to say in English, détournement, um, hijacking that, mean to not speak about the war, but to take what's détournement. No, no, it's not that. It's no, no, that's not. It's not that. It's not that. Yes, I will show you some other work, and I think it's like a topic that's coming, and let me talk 10 minutes more, and then I show you few works, and you will see I have different fields, and they sometime they mix, or maybe they will mix in the next 10 years, I don't know, but I have the impression I really allow me to test different stuff, different medium while I was studying, and somehow maybe now I'm more feeling free to mix everything, as I said, making a sculpture, movie, performance. Yes, misappropriation. Yes, thank you. So maybe two last keywords, and then I show some picture. Clown. Yes, a long story too. I have only long story. I'm trying to work on being shorter. If you want to know what's happening now in my life, but yeah, clown. I'm studying back them. It's also a subject that is coming regularly. I maybe made a work that it's clownery and war together last spring, and um, how to resume it shortly, but on the theoretical level, clownery it's working on the emotions and making a emotional roller coaster, which I really take as an inspiration for my performance. And the aesthetic I'm using, it's often seen as a clownery, so like I'm not serious, and I think clown are serious somehow, you know, and I like this mythology of the clown, that is someone that is not taken seriously, but actually it's getting really deep in what is essential. So I will say that it's also kind of a I mean to say it in a glamour way, they are kind of samurai, you know. Samurai, they go with the sword exactly where you have to be beaten. And the clown, I think they have this kind of same philosophy, and and also I have seen it's a chapter I won't like really to speak about tonight, but I've been in Greece in a refugees camp, and I really see how clown activists they're efficient. I mean, they can really passing military blocks if they are good, but they are helping the people to to feel, which I think we forgot a lot about that. We forgot a lot about the emotional side of the humankind. We tend to get it in the material. So if you have the phone, you should be happy. So we get back in the happiness. But um, and the clownery, it doesn't need to have the phone, or doesn't need to show you the phone. It's show you the happiness, or awake the happiness somehow, you know. So yes, I'm interested now. Right these days, I'm writing also about the history of clownery. So I don't have really a precise point, but I noticed today when I was preparing the picture that I often put colors on my face as clowns. So I think I should think more about that. But um yeah, to finish with the clown, I will say it's they open this question about nowadays that you, I mean, I have the impression that you have to show off what you are to make people believe what you are, or pretending what you want to be. And what I like with the clown, it's that they directly are considered as clown, and they're not pretending anything. So and they're like starting from the bottom, you know. So yeah, maybe they have some kind of humility I like, or I would like to achieve somehow. Um, Last keyword, and then we can open more. Swiss, because I'm Swiss. Nah, I mean, nah, I just put Swiss because I'm Swiss and French, but uh, uh, somehow I mean I just want to say that because somehow I considered that is also fashionable to say that is how to say, it's like shame to be Swiss or whatever, and and it's not a proud too. It's just a reality. So it's that's it. It's not so important, or nothing to be shameless too. And and the government scale, I mean, I like the fact that the country is built on four language officially recognized. And if you look on the definition of nationalism, one of the first reason to be nationalist is the unity of the language. So all the time, Swiss nationalists tell me as a nationalist, they say you are a paradox, because it's in the definition of nationalism that is united with one language, and you are part of a country that is united by four language. So um, I don't want to get in the political, even if it's nearby, but to really make it short, but I think yes, is some, I'll be part of a story, and there is a lot of tools in this story. They're not all wrong, and I think the better way to fight a nationalist is to know the story of your country, because they most of the time don't know. They're pretending to know. They're stalling the story. So a lot of friends that they're considering themselves leftist, they say they are ashamed to be Swiss, or they don't want to say that. I think the first tool to really get against the violence of nationalists is to not be ashamed of where you're born, and to take into the history what can serve you, or and to appropriate your country somehow, to not let it being stolen. And also George Orwell speak about that. He say about patriotism, which today it's totally considered as a right wings word, and George Orwell is totally not right wings. And he say patriotism is about to care about how to manage your country. Doesn't matter left or right. It's you care about how you manage the community in which you are involved. And I kind of agree of that. And yeah, this is the political side, and it's why I just put that because it make me laugh, but it can go in more reflection, and I think somehow with this point I show how I work. I mean, I start with some words, and then I make brainstorming, and I see how it's work on the political side, how it's work in the art side, how it's work on the emotional side, and I put all the layers, and then I make choose, and then I said, okay, I want to make a roller coaster around that, and I make choice also about my way to live that, and my position. But I try to not be scared on subject, because you no, it's I think it's not a natural position. It's really a radical position, but is not. I mean, it's what happened also on the political side. Nobody wants really to listen to the intellectual, because it takes time. It takes energy, and nothing. It's really easy, and I think this is a radical position, and it's not fancy somehow. I mean, it's not seductive position, but I like it, and as why I start with my mother, because I think the knowledge, it's the key for not be tricked. But I also remember that it's nice to have emotional relation with stuff, and to also get on the intuition. So and all the level. I mean, also in the political, if you are scared, it's not a problem. It's just you have to face the scare. You have to know why you're fear. If you are, you have to continue to be fear. You know, it's maybe to resume, and I will show you some work because it's already 1 hour I'm speaking. I would like to. I have different. I have my top 5 of what is an artist. You know, every time you go in a bar and you present yourself and you say I'm an artist, you have to explain why. What does it mean art? What does it mean artist? So I have a top 5, because I don't know what's should be the right one. But one I like, it's that I think I'm a professional of myself and emotions. And I hope it's not sound arrogant, but what I mean is just that part of my work is to see how I feel in front of something, to get as deep as I can, and go back up and try to find the connection with another person that is not me. So I'm really elaborated emotions to make it collective. I don't know if it's the image it can be clear. So somehow I can consider that my work is about to, like a chemist, or I don't know, a science to, or a psychologist, to understand how I work and ask myself if the others are working kind of the same, and what kind of bridge we can do somehow, or how we can communicate. And so I will say my work is not intimate, but is emotional. And I can go further in that difference, but it makes sense, or yeah. I hope, yeah, and I hope that I mean, for maybe my first work, they're more intimate, because I think it's part of also the growing, but yes, I hope, as I say, the at the end of the work, the artist is not there. It's not anymore about me. It's about us, or who is connected with what I try to figure out. And yeah. Um, does someone really want a last keyword, or do you want to see some works? Works. Okay. So this is the moment you can interrupt me at any time. Okay. So yeah, try to. It's not as I'm really bad with the technique, but uh, yeah. So this is just some few early works, and I don't know how to make short. I'm sorry, but really. This is a really last year bachelor work. Sorry, I will do fast, and then you interrupt me. This is a last year bachelor work where I was going in and trash and garbage, and then I was trying to make houses from old computers. And this is part of the project you have seen before, because it was a four chapter work. And this is also a chapter about this war point. And I was showing picture of the Iraq War of people in Bern, and asking them what they remember about that. And while there was in the screen the people answering, there was in the small screen, I mean the wall is a screen, and the small screen is the picture of the people carrying these pictures. And I was coaching myself for maybe say that I don't know what to say or something like that. I mean, it's not really important work. I mean, it's a mistake work or something. It was kind of an epic fail, actually. This is my first work at the art school for the first semester. So it's, as I said, I'm studied for 3 months the history of war photography, which is kind of linked with photography history itself. And I kind of reenact some war picture or some propaganda picture with my own toys. And the big soldier is 1/1 scale of my measuration. So, and actually some teacher thought it was me. I don't know. But yeah, so this big soldier, it's the scale of myself. So um, to get back on this rotten stuff, yeah, I forgot to. Sorry, I have to go back in the keyword because it was really important. And this is the Tarkovsky Stalker, which it's kind of base also a lot of stuff and resuming all. I'm assure you, because the stalker of Tarkovsky is someone that know, but his knowledge cannot let him have a position of authority. And I explain why. It's because the zone, the world in the zone is changing all the time. So the only way to move safely in the zone is to feel the zone. And most of the part of the movie, he fights with the science and the literal intellectual man because they want to know how it's work. And most of the time the story say, I don't know it's work, I just feel, or I just can know if I feel, you know. And I did my master degree on that, like an anthropologist, studying how the stalker it's working and how it work also with the authority. And the only ways it can be authoritarian with the other two characters, it's when he's saying stories or story tales, which it's for kids usually. So I should have spoke about it before, but yeah, somehow I try to be a stalker, not as we intend now with, I don't know, celebrities or whatever, but a Tarkovsky stalker. And this is the site of Artemis in Geneva, which was one of the biggest squat district in Geneva. And everybody was speaking about that because when I was in Geneva, everybody was missing the fact that Artemis was not there anymore and the culture was dead. So I was more feeling that I arrived at sort of a funeral somehow. Now it's getting a bit better, but in my time it was really a cultural funeral about this time of squats. So I was kind of feeling unlucky to arrive at the end of the party, and it was interesting to kind of feeling what was this Artemis stuff. So I was basically going there and doing and play actually as a kid with the site, going in, discover, and it was kind of funny, but also after 1 hour or so, was also opening like a second state of mind. And then I tried also to invite people, so to make some protocol like the stalker of Tarkovsky, and try to yeah to awake somehow this walking attention and feeling walking, I don't know, to resume. And yes, and this is one work I've done like illegally in the Giardini of Biennale in Venice, which is the first culinary pavilion in the Venice Biennale. I opened it like one afternoon, so I was dressed a bit as a clown. I make really short because this clown costume was also part of my first performances. But I spent the day invite people to visit the culinary pavilion, which it was also presented as the first pavilion that is not linked with a government or country. So there was also this aspect I was interesting. And this is the artwork of Ambroise Thiesch, which is a artist based in Geneva and also a teacher of the school. And I think he joked a bit with me because he wrote Ars Gratia Artis, which is mean l'art pour l'art, um, with this pasta stuff, you know. So yeah, I've done kind of the same in Art Basel or whatever, but then I stop. I try to do some work collectively much later. I was already in the master, I guess. Based on the TV party, which it was, and I have some. Maybe I show you the movie while I'm talking about that, so it's more dynamic. And yeah, um, TV party. It's just. Can we go down with the sound? Thanks. It's not important the sound. Um, it was TV party was made by what we called the downtown scene. That is the artist scene that is just younger than Warhol but contemporary to Warhol in New York, and um, they could have a studio of TV and they were passing in the TV and they were just making costume stuff. There was Blondie playing a concert. It was just fun to be on TV, and there is all this reflection as to be famous with Warhol and whatever. So they could like just being famous without waiting to be famous somehow, and they were just making like parties on TV for 1 hour, and people they could call them and they were insulting them, and they were answering. So it was really a chaos. There is a nice documentary about that. Is TV party. And for example, there was also Basquiat. That wasn't the Basquiat totally famous, but he was part of the crew, and he was making this TV graffiti, which we try to make somehow. Yeah, so this for one is know a bit the French. It's just like poetry or some stuff, and that was the kind of Basquiat was doing while the TV party was going on. So I did it 10 days, every day, 2 hours show with friends. Here are their names. And this is a show that was calling Gogo Daily. This is a show that we start by the end. So at the middle, after 20 minutes, we say that the show is finished. And then we restart the show. Yeah, we played a lot with that, and at the end the show was always finished with now we can make the sound just 20 seconds. We finished with concert, and this is like a jam session between Lausanne, France, and Finland, and no rehearsal, and yeah. I think I put it on YouTube if you want after. I mean, it's just to see that I've tried to make some collective works. Uh, Questions? Help me.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Actually, happy to join you. Can you put the image that you were with Scotch, like a la
No,
Hirschham?
not that one. Come on, it's
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. I know it's actually super hard. It's like you actually depict. This is like I don't know. This is structurating how you theoretically try to understand your work, and I see it's a big work in itself. It's like it felt like a public psychoanalysis in which you were self deconstructing the motivations. But I totally appreciate it. I know it's very hard, as you know. When I contact Marioni, I ask him, well, these are the basic questions you can ask yourself when articulating what is the meaning of your work, and the basic questions are like the intentionality and so on. I mean, and so I guess this gives a sort of a guideline, but it's truly very hard. It's truly very hard because it's like you confront yourself in the mirror and like try to find sense
the
of
meaning
it.
of my work, it's like to saying what's the meaning of my life, which I think
Exactly,
everybody's get lost with that question.
Exactly, yeah. So I appreciate for your honesty and totally identifying many aspects. I took some notes. I mean, I have several questions, but yeah, just the first comment is like I also watched very young Matthew Barney, Cream Master, and I also feel very seduced by the appealing of freedom. I mean, freedom in Guillemets. like how hell he's allowed to do such a beautiful mess at the moment. I mean, I also was, let's say, seduced by the potentiality that art production could bring you for, yeah, for producing, like if art will allow you to be free, you know. Of course, after school, you kind of realize or get messed up by school, and then it's like, okay, no. Also, I also like to make this observation that I think we have similar, if not the same, teachers, because we studied at this similar period of time, and I felt like one gets a little bit traumatized by this justification of theory, and no, that one has also to contextual. I mean, of course, it's very interesting to contextualize, but in a way, it's also this pressure of contextualize it in a theoretical way, and feel like the potentiality of the theory is often more relevant than the impact of the gesture in itself. But that's a comment. And then I like to ask, well, it's a comment. I remember the first performance I saw of you was at the Psychiatric Center Biel in Geneva, curated by Daniel Baumann, and it was something to do with service, grilling, and sausages. Do you remember?
Yes, and there was this character I showed you in the Biennale Venice, and was characters going on different time.
So there is this character of
Frank Zapping, it was called.
Okay. I mean, it was like a multi-performance evening, and the characteristic, I guess, from the work of Marioni, even if we get more the theory or the more intimate motivations of his work more than the visuals in itself of his compilation, I guess it's also this, as you point, service, like a social sculptor, or more this Nicolas Bourdieu thing of service. Like you bring a social service, I mean, a service in terms of the social community context. And how do you feel that your practice has developed in the last years? I mean, from what I saw from the very young man till today, like how do you feel how it's, you know, grow your performance, or are the motivations the same, similar than before, after the school and over the years? Do you feel it has went into another direction than your original motivation?
Yes and no. I mean, that's why I was speaking about the early works, because it's maybe the one that are less possible to see. And as I said, I've tried many stuff. So even the work you said with these sausages, and I was making sausages in the opening, and in the exhibition there was a movie showing me making the sausages in the butchery, and then I was just playing like in TV and say, and now it's ready, and I was out doing that, you know. So um, what I mean, it's just that in the student time, you are free to try whatever you want, which maybe is not the first invitation the schools says, but it's possible. And growing up, I think I just accumulated skills that now I can use for more precise work, and I'm more also kind of aware of what I'm working on and what I want to try. And the most difficult is to not want to put everything in a work. And when I was younger, I mean, I was stressed to don't know when will be the next occasion I will have to show my work. So I was just trying to say everything, you know, and it was totally chaos. And now I try to order it, but it's, I mean, I'm a bit more confident that I have more occasion to show stuff, so I can say, hey, this time I just focus on this. But is yeah, I will say that maybe this the how I can say that I grow. It's that now I always want to learn and to test stuff. I really like this dilettantism position, but I have also skills that allow me to be dilettante only in one side. So hopefully.
And will you tell us how do you produce a performance? Like, does it depart from the concept, and how does it develop the process till the product? If we
Yeah, I
can
said
so-called
I
product.
think about my mother, the chaos, the war, all the. I mean, somehow when I start to work, there is this in my mind, and of course, it depends also where I'm invited. I mean, and I don't really like to be only categorized as a performer because I like to make also other stuff or sometimes I think I'm more like a conceptual artist. But like this is the last I've done 2 weeks ago, and there's paintings, there's a performance. If I had more money or more time, I will construct the chairs. I mean, now look at this. It's also look as a clown,
Where
but
is this?
is in FIQ gallery in Basel, and it was in this Erasio project going on in Basel in several art space, and this is the Oral Bank. Um, which I'm basically offering people to open an account in the oral bank, which is making emission of oral sculptures, which is sounds as a joke, but actually it really have legal authority because it's about oral contracts. So I'm sculpturing sentence, and the people receive this sentence, and if they say this sentence to someone else, they are sharing the property because they cannot sell it and guarantee that they will forget the sentence. So I mean, I present that to the people, and then we have the sentence, and it's a work that it's also allowed to get in some emotional or some small talk, in deep stuff, because to make a nice sculpture, I have to know a bit of the person. I have to know what it's like, or how it's feel, and then I can sculpture words. So yeah, this is it's 2 weeks ago. So this is the end of all I've seen. I mean the end. Hopefully not, but I mean the
A result.
the picture of the present.
Mm-hmm. Um, yes, yes. But you had to talk in the microphone because we are streaming and we need the.
Hello, the world.
Okay, no, I was just wondering. You were talking about you were sculpturing words. So you were doing sculpture with words. The thing is, was you were first talking with the person to understand. So you were doing like personal sculpture for persons, or
Yes, I'm invited the person to enter in my office and speak with the director of the oral bank or the employees. I don't remember what term I use. And then I speak about oral sculpture property. And then if they agree to open an account, like every bank, I ask few personal questions. And then, yeah, I make the emission. So it's like making money emissions, but it's words. And maybe you can have an idea, but in the picture in the back, it's look like a shape of the voice. I mean, the voice have a shape. It's not so immaterial. We consider it immaterial,
Yeah.
but
no,
it's really precisely vibrations. And so it's like what I say to most of the people. It's like a magical sentence. So if you know abracadabra and a beer will appear,
okay.
and you know abracadabra, then you say abracadabra and the beer appear. I mean, it's in the magic field. It's really clear. If you know the magic sentence,
Mm-hmm.
the magic happens. And the oral sculpture, it's just working the same principle. It's just a sentence with some aesthetical um, points. So you can choose to have a figurative sculpture, which is used by language,
Okay, or immaterial. At the
or
end was really
abstract.
abstract. Okay.
So if you want to have a sculpture that is this is an abstract oral
abstract,
sculpture. If you want to have the bottle green in the lake over the top of the house, this is a figurative oral sculpture. And then we agree about that. We try to resume it in a short sentence. We sign on the book, and I write down the stuff. So as a bank, this is also a point because I'm Swiss. I'm doing that. Is as a bank, I guarantee the secret of your property. And then if you want to know again because you forgot, is a bank, so is offering service, and so the opening of the account is free, but all the following service are in exchange of payment.
Okay. There's a number you can
And
call.
if you want to share your oral sculpture, you have to define with the other person what will be the exchange. Because if I told you, if I'm the bank and we decide that your oral sculpture is abracadabra, you say abracadabra to someone else is the ownership of abracadabra as well as you. Because you cannot trade saying, hey, I put a stick in my brain and I forgot abracadabra. It's impossible. So it's also a point to discuss about economy and to create or playing with economy, which maybe can resume the stuff with the war and the other stuff. I mean, I'm not getting tired about the fact that there is really economical issues that are for the worst, but I don't find creative to quote Noam Chomsky on my work. I'm finding more interesting to create system of property ownership and open to the speculation, but on the orality and with this look, which is not serious. So we get in the clown, but it's really serious. I mean, I have the book at home, and if someone stole it, can make an exhibition with the oral sculpture of the people, or you know.
The setting that is behind in the room doesn't have anything to do with the exchange. It's just like
It's the office.
It's the office. Okay. Well,
I have done this this work just with a carpet on the floor.
okay.
I mean, it's to define a zone of of emission, because the bank is not making an exchange; it's making emission, like central bank is emitted money. And to underline the fact that there is a oral contract, I just use or a carpet, or at that moment it was an office, and then I was just really feel free, which maybe it's getting also on the question about the growing. I didn't really ask myself why there is this painting or what they really want to mean. It was a kind of pleasure that was making sense on the wall, and yeah, maybe that's happened when you grow up. I mean, you're less use your energy to be smart, and then maybe now allow me to be more happy or to just have fun. And it makes sense, I mean, because when I show you the painting, it's remember you the shape of the sound. So I mean, it's also useful to
It's
allow
like
me.
a visual interpretation of your idea of orality.
Sorry.
Are the paintings a sort of a visual interpretation of your concept of orality of what you're documenting? Because they're like waves, or
Yes, I mean
you
it
don't have
was.
to feel like it's a questionnaire, just like what is
It was a question to how to make my office, and I wanted that the office make a resonance with the concept. So we get back in Matthew Barney. I mean, I want that the everything the person sees makes sense with what I'm saying.
Because we're talking about humor, so I was wondering what you think would happen if you would take away the humor, if you would because you're obviously doing like many of the things like obviously in a funny way, I guess, or like you make them look a little bit funny. So I'm wondering like what would happen if you would take it away, if you would
I
take
want
the
to be
fun
in my
away.
work, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, because I tried to make a serious work, and there was always a catastrophe, like my master work. I mean, I spoke, and they said you should make performance and not an installation. And I had my due because I wanted to make a nice installation to be part of the price, and I tried to be smart and make like this minimalist installation, which was a total fail, and I barely miss my diploma, but then I have to defend it, and then they said, okay, it's really clear, but you should not do stuff. You should just speak, and also this is how I get in the role in sculpture. I say that I actually they're true. I'm just speak about what I want to say, then this is clear. But the humor, thanks to open that, is just was also in my keywords, but I will say short is Henri Bergson, the philosopher, make like this nice essay on the laughing, and also explain that the laughing is like this natural human reaction about something that you should not do. So when someone is doing something that you should not be or should not do, you people laughing. So in the same time, the laughing is a way to control somehow, to say you're wrong. And I think art should be always about laughing. I mean, yeah, it's not useful for the surviving of the humankind art. So it's funny. It's you should not do somehow, and then there is the irony. I mean, then I can get more in the humor and irony and cynical, and the irony. I get the Franco Berardi definition about cynical, because today I speak about a lot with people, and I have the impression some people use the same definition, but sometimes they say it's cynical and sometimes they say irony. So I'm also a bit lost with the collective relation about irony and cynical. But so I just use irony for myself, maybe cynical, but I'm lost about the definition. But I think also irony have something to do with the power or the authority. So I mean the first thing that authoritarian regime they close is irony. You cannot laugh, you cannot make irony, you cannot make satire, that stuff. And so I think the ironist position is that you just have fun, and this is also a political statement. And Franco Berardi make the difference with the cynical, that the cynical have the kind of same humor, but the cynical is waiting that the power take him and give him power somehow. It's like one is making fun of the king, and when the king call him and say, hey, come in the castle to make the funny stuff, he say, no, I'm already good, I don't need you said I'm funny, I'm already funny. And the cynical, it's waiting that the king legitimate the thing that is the most funny stuff. So I always try to make short, and I hope it's not sound superficial, but I think this reflection allow me to think the art field, the art milieu, or whatever, and to create my position. I mean, I'm not against any other statement. It's just that my statement is, yes, humor, it's as clown or whatever, it's not about me to define if this is not serious, because I'm doing it very seriously.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Is what I say, that some people they consider is cynical, but I take the definition of Franco Berardi, so it say that is irony. But maybe you're right to say it's cynical. It's just for me, I following this definition of Franco Berardi, and or how I understood it, and for me, irony, it's free somehow. You have this position of freedom, and cynical have this need of codes. I mean, for like cynical is postmodernism. You know, you have to know the codes to understand the irony or the funny stuff. And and for me, my humor or my irony is doesn't really try to refer to any codes. It's more like a kid game, you know. And we didn't spoke about that, but is also inspired by Andy Kaufman's strategy, and there's a nice book on him that speak about this orthodox humor or whatever, that says if you're actually following the rules. I mean, in this work, I'm following exactly the rules of economy. I'm not saying anything against the economy, but it's provoke somehow people that believe in economy, because no, this is not serious somehow, you know. But yeah, but it's not a parody of economy. It's I'm really doing exactly what is an economy. So I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but uh,
Yeah, I mean to repeat. Yeah, I think that the critique itself is the statement of building a protocol that involves standards that are out of the art context, like this exchange. I think the characteristic of the work of Andrea are very into relational aesthetics, as defined by Bourdieu, are like these practices that involve the other. You know, it has a community practice that involves the other, and my perception, maybe my humble perception, is that in the process, like you mentioned, yeah, like in school, we're like, no, don't use a sculptor or this or that. But this is just a small characteristics that will exemplify something that can be very serious, even if using such a humor or aesthetics of clownizing, you know. So I wouldn't validate or unvalidate as saying like, oh, something is not serious because you're using fun aesthetics, you know. I think there is such a need of empathy to the public towards
I,
build relation with it, and sometimes you can have it when you have humor. But yeah, I just my impression with this one, especially with this one, that you try to build like a bank thing.
no, I didn't try. It's a bank thing.
Yeah, it's a bank. Yeah.
And it was what I mean. I mean, for me, it's not funny. For me, it's serious what I've done.
Yeah.
I know it's look funny, but it's how I want to make serious the stuff. And I think maybe is a lack in my work, or is an observation. People, they don't get the critic, but actually I don't want to criticize. I want to create new field of perception somehow, you know. I don't want to criticize the bank system with this work. I want to create a bank that works in another way. And this is what I say with the irony position, that I don't need the bank to make bank. You know, you don't the criticism, you need the subject of the criticism to exist. I don't have position of criticism, because I created something that I what was the word, détournement in English? Yeah, reappropriation.
I think it was invalidating.
No, reappropriation.
No, but it wasn't reparation. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I just mean it's somehow my work have to be read read 1-1 scale. If you read on the what I call the cynical point of view, you don't get it. It's not a postmodernism joke. It's it's more like a kid work. I mean, the kids are really serious, and if you ask them how it's work, they know exactly how it's work, and and I think I like that. I mean, for me, it's a strong position, and it's also radical to say, uh, I want to have fun. There is bank everywhere. Why should I not have my own bank? And
Also in the beginning, you also start to mention about this transition to work into the immateriality, that you wanted to work first with materiality, and then you realized you wanted to work with immateriality, and this comes very consistently with that statement. In the other hand, I also had the impression that it's also necessary, probably healthy for your sake of producing authentic work, to freedom yourself of the categories of expectors and others. No, at the end, it's really about, as you mentioned, your motivations based in your mom and stuff. It's just
no,
necessary.
no, I said it was how I get into the performance. I mean, I'm not against the material stuff, but it was a keyword that is raw art, and what I like in raw art or art brut, I don't know who wants to use which definition. I like that this is they are not only aesthetic; they really have a function. It's happen. It's having a function. So I like that. I mean, I like that the artwork could have a function that is a belief or a thought or a resume of a research or a chaos or whatever. I mean, it start to make it clear shortly, but I mean, I did make objects, and I'm curious to know if someone will buy my work. I will react. But this is a work I've done last year, and this is a collection of caps I had since I am 5. Is a bit really related with Ticino, because there's a lot of supermarket in Ticino that doesn't exist anymore, and they are present on the caps. So for me, it's this as Levi Strauss called the wild anthropology, or I'm doing it. I mean, it's a system of classification of the world that have its own logic, but is not based on other logic. And I try just to make it ordered. I mean, as we get back in the chaos, but if the world is a chaos, I try to order it, and maybe it's look as a chaos, but it get back maybe to order the world. I don't know. There is this relation, but I don't know if someone want to buy the collection of the cap and these sculptures I've done with the people. I don't know. I mean, let's discuss. It's I mean, because the work is immaterial somehow. It's called the 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 civilization of the Visare, the stuff on the cap. The Visieras, also in English. So in the title, you understand that there is a civilization, and what they do. This is like funeral stuff. It's burn stuff. What is that? And just try to confront when you see this work as it presents that maybe there is a society which is really close to our, but start to make this humanoid sculpture to put art on it, and yeah.
I mean, it is art because you said so, and that validated. And I guess the spectator can have his interpretation as wishes or theoricians or art historians. But in the moment you validated yourself as a art object, installation, or anything, it is.
But again, I mean, I want to say that somehow I don't need the art to make art. You know, it's not my problem. I will probably do something similar than that. That art or art system or the artwork exist or not. Of course, the fact that it exists, it's allow me to have a dialogue with people that are interested in this kind of manifestations. So it's nice to have this dialogue with the art world, but it have its own nature. I mean, I don't. It's not important to me to know if it's art or not.
And what would be your expectation when producing a work or a performance work?
My expectation is first, to be really honest, that really opened me another opportunity to make another work that I can show or to do on myself, because it's kind of ongoing research. And then I mean, I hope that it can open to someone else. I mean, it will be sad that if I'm doing something and nobody is having a connection with that, so I will ask myself what's wrong. But yeah, I think I like when there is some
Dialogue.
Yes, please.
So, is this what you like? You were saying that art gave you the possibility of create your. Would you say that this would be a form of communication that you like? You want to have a connection with people, and this is what for you would be art, communication with other people in a way of a creative way, a form of language. Would it be
for
of language, like your own language, creating however you feel free to?
I mean, I have to admit, I'm a bit lost with this definition of art or whatever. I mean,
Without calling
I,
it
I, I,
art. Without calling it art, would you say you're creating your own language to communicate with other people?
if I will do that, I will be in a raw art museum. I mean, as I said, I know what's going on in the world, but I'm also interested about the the perception of what's going on, and I mean, I'm really interested on the words, language, but the use of the language about art, it's not really my stuff. For me, it's more science. I mean, I would like to say that I'm a scientist. I'm more like an anthropologist. I mean, I'm making research of my work. I make observation. I make hypothesis. I make picture. I'm asking people, are you reacting with that, and etc. I have a. For me, it's more important. I mean, it's part of the process. If at the end it's called biology or science or art, is not so important. I mean, we tend to divide stuff, and for me, they're a bit more all connected. Because if I go to a museum to see an artwork and I'm a biologist, I can get something. Is what I say with my mother. I mean, you don't have to know the art history to get something or some inspiration by the art. You can enjoy the fact to know the art history, which make you an overview of the work, and I enjoy also this part. But otherwise, also really impressed by the observation of people that doesn't have knowledge of art history, and they find connection with their field, and I'm really inviting them that, which I think I cannot know all the situation in the world, but there is a bit a lack of that, you know. That's you have to understand the art history to get the artwork. Yes, maybe. it's interesting, but it's maybe also interesting to ask yourself what you see in front of that. And yeah, science and biologists, they really look stuff on the art and see precise stuff that are in the artwork. So for me, I mean, the definition of art or what is art, uh, kind of a small talk, you know. I mean, I'm saying it in the pub at 2 o'clock when someone asks me stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant with you. It's just I know it exists. I'm enjoying about reading philosophy about art, and I'm aware about that. But it's not my aim in my work. Of course, I know that if I want to continue to be allowed to work on that and be produced and be shown and to make the transmission of my work, it's better that I understand also how the art world works, because they are my first interlocutor, my first. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Vane, and thank you, Andreas. I also like to comment that a quote of Woody Allen that say that art is not a telegram. It's not about a telegram, so it doesn't have to bring you this concrete something, you know. But it's just more about bringing a reflection, and that's why we really need it. So with this, I think I think we had to finish because we're a little bit run. I don't know if you'd like to add something shortly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you so much, Andrea, for such a great talk and for depicting your psychoanalysis in public of your motivation of your work. We saw more about your private psychoanalysis and more your work, but we got this in-depth, authentic Marioni style of what is about going on in general. So thank you.